What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another tropical forecast here by Asian Weather Forecast. As you guys know, I posted a lot later than I usually do, and that is because I just started high school today, so I actually just got home from cross country practice after school, so we will be starting to see later uploads here. The thing is, I will have early uploads Tuesday and Thursday because I will be online Tuesday and Thursday, but in person Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So really my schedule for uploads will be all over the place here, but I do apologize for that. So just a couple days of the week I will be posting, not until the evening, so just stay that. But Marco is now really weakening, now at a borderline tropical depression and storms that's sitting at 40 miles an hour and might just make landfall in Louisiana only at a depression. They have removed the hurricane warnings, removed really everything here. So Marco really not to really become a huge threat for Louisiana. It might not even be named when it makes landfall. But on the other hand, Laura, we're going to be really talking about Laura mostly in this video because Laura is going to be posing a huge threat for Texas and Louisiana because it has a very good shot to become a major hurricane before making landfall in the border of those states or far western Louisiana. We can be seeing extreme storms or extremely strong winds and powerful winds. I would recommend here actually getting your plans ready and evacuating if you are under the hurricane watches. Hurricane watches have been updated as far from Houston to the south central coast of Louisiana. So we have some pretty big updates. A lot of them all shows major hurricane. We're going to be looking at the tracks, coning, who could get hit the hardest, what this storm could get to in my opinion, and everything. But without further ado, let's get into this tropical forecast. So here's looking now at the National Hurricane Center, and as you see, Marco is really very close to making landfall here for the southeastern parish of Louisiana, sitting here at 40 miles an hour and 1,008 millibars. So this thing went from really cruising up 75 miles an hour, almost rapidly into the vacation, to now really falling apart due to that extreme wind shear. You're probably thinking, won't Laura do the same thing? Won't it really fall apart, not strengthen? Well, actually, Marco will actually help that minimize that shear, and Laura's a lot more organized than Marco was. So Laura actually probably won't weaken, if not anything, really rapidly intensify. As you see here, more south here into the portions of the southern Cuba coast here, now sitting at 60 miles an hour. This storm has done nothing but get better over these mountains. It is now over waters currently, but it is really expected to start doing a northern turn and make landfall on the Texas or Louisiana border, maybe even just western Louisiana, but Texas could very well see some big effects here, especially if you're on the border. If you're like all the way in Houston or in Dallas, you guys should be mostly fine. Maybe some winds or some rain showers, or not Dallas, if Houston at most. But you see, these storms are definitely starting to cruise, so that could be meaning two landfalls. But obviously Marco just completely fell apart with this shear, and it might just become a tropical depression before landfall, so it might not even be named. But as you see, Laura definitely going to start making, it's actually getting near Havana. It's going to start doing that northern turn into the point where it's near Havana. And then it's going to be cruising. It's going to be blowing up. This is going to be a really nice Thanksgiving dinner for Laura between Cuba to Louisiana. It'll be hundreds of miles of extremely warm waters. Really no shear at all now that Marco went through. I mean, these warm waters, crazy. These waters, the Gulf is actually at its warmest that it's been in a while. But let's go and check out now satellite imagery here on these two storms. So I want us to do a little quick I Spy with my little eye game. Can you please spot where Marco is on satellite imagery? I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds. Alright. It is right here. That is our so-called tropical storm Marco. Look at that. You can actually see that's where the eye is. This eye is right about to make landfall. I'm telling you, this is probably a tropical depression as we speak. It is probably a tropical depression as we speak. Look at that. Not a single cloud cover in this storm. Look at how this thing completely fell apart. Look at all that dense cloud cover near Mobile and Alabama and Florida Panhandle. That's actually not Marco. This is the low pressure. That is Marco right there. I bet you guys, some of you guys, you probably only saw you only thought that was Marco because you saw that vorticity. That's probably the only reason why if you guessed that. But that's your so-called tropical storm that's going to hit Louisiana. This is definitely depression in my opinion. I mean, look, there's not even a little cloud cover in this storm. There's no way this has over 39 miles an hour here. But Mark on the other hand, sheesh, or Laura on the other hand, wow, Laura is just blowing up here. I mean, look at that convection. We're seeing dark pinks here. We're seeing extremely dark pinks here. That's beautiful. That is beautiful for organization. This thing has some nice counterclockwise banding here. Very, very nice. Low pressure right here. Like I said, starting to move northwest. It can really start affecting here portions of western Cuba now, as a lot of Cuba is still under the tropical storm warnings. Cuba could definitely see some pretty big impacts, including areas like Havana and the far western areas that got impact from Laura when Laura was blowing up here when it became a hurricane around right there. But it's really crazy. This thing's really blowing up. It is pretty shocking. I mean, Laura could very well be a hurricane rather soon, right when it passes here. Once it goes through Cuba like this, it'll blow up here, possibly rapidly intensify here. I mean, models take this to a category 5. Some take this to a category 5. I think a category 3 is possible. I mean, if this becomes a category 4, that would be absolutely devastating because, I mean, the National Hurricane Center only shows a category 2 for this, and they predicted only 75 miles an hour in the beginning. So, like I said, the National Hurricane Center really, I mean, this is a shocker for the National Hurricane Center. Not really a shocker for me because, I mean, I kind of knew this was going to be big, but category 4, that's pretty significant in my opinion. I mean, especially if people ride this storm out because they think, oh, Marco did that, so this is going to do the same thing, and it doesn't do the same thing. It's going to devastate Texas and Louisiana here. Obviously, I don't think this would be category 5, but I mean, we were all shocked with Michael, how Michael blew up. We were all shocked how Irma blew up. So, I mean, I think category, I mean, obviously there's never something impossible, but I think this is very close to, I think category 5, I say it has a 3% chance of happening. Category 4, in my opinion, has like a 25%. Category 3 has like really a 50%, really a high. I mean, models have done nothing but agree that this will be a category 3. And then tracks and intensity have gone there as well. But look at that storm. Very, very organized. So let's actually check out all the information, advisory, cones, and everything on Tropical Storm Laura. So here's look now at the new 5 p.m. here update of the National Hurricane Center. I think as you see, Cuba still seeing a lot of tropical storm winds here. As you see that low pressure, it's kind of on the far western part of these tropical storm wind field. That's a very large wind field, let me tell you that. As you see, they expect it to be a hurricane as early as 2 a.m. Wednesday, which is actually rather soon here. Around only around 30-ish hours. I wouldn't be shocked if it becomes a hurricane late tomorrow afternoon or late tomorrow evening because, I mean, this is going to be past Cuba tonight, possibly tomorrow morning. I think it could very well become a hurricane because this is 60 miles an hour, maybe 65. But as you see, hurricane watches have been issued for areas near Lake Charles, Houston as well, and then tropical storm watches have been issued for the Galveston area all the way up into near Morgan City in the far southeastern parish where Marco's actually affecting already right now. And as you see, this cone has definitely been slimmed a lot more. Houston, you guys are kind of not. Houston is not on the cone. They are not on the cone. They're on the edge, but they are under hurricane watches. You know why? Because the storm is going to be so close, and if it's going to be a category 4 or category 3, it's definitely going to bring in hurricane sustained winds at least, or gust for Houston, really. You don't have to be in the cone to have hurricane watches or tropical storm warnings or watches, anything. It all depends on the winds, not really the cone. It just depends on the side of the storm. Look at that wind field. Let's take it that. And let's do the same thing here. That's kind of like this. That's the wind field of a 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm. Imagine if it's category 3. The wind field would probably be like, for tropical storm winds, probably like this. That's a massive wind field here. I mean, this is actually already a massive wind field for a 60-mile-an-hour storm. Like, if this becomes a category 3, imagine Imagine the tropical storm wind field. Obviously, the hurricane wind field will be pretty small, but or not small, but not as large as the wind field it is right now. But as you see, National Hurricane Center is showing this becoming a Category 2, making landfall near Lake Charles, Louisiana. But we're going to be seeing impacts for a lot of Louisiana, and a lot of eastern Texas will be seeing impacts from this. So even if you're near Baton Rouge, or even if you're near Alexandria, Monroe, Shreveport, Texarkana, areas of eastern Texas, Houston, I would definitely keep an eye on this storm. And if it really becomes a Category 3 and models show Category 4 or Category 5, I would definitely keep an eye on this. And I know if you're super far inland, you're like, oh, Adrian, really? I mean, look, they showed tropical storm. I've dealt with this before. Well, obviously, they showed this as because it's they show Category 2. If imagine if it's Category 3, Category 4. I mean, you just got to keep these things in mind here. Storm surge, as you see, this is normal storm surge. This is a peak storm surge without high tide. Morgan City, 2 to 4 for storm surge. And this is actually for Marco, I believe. So. For Marco, we're seeing 2 to 4 foot storm surge from Morgan City all the way up to Ocean Springs, so Lake Borge. We're going to be seeing 2 to 4 foot storm surge. 2 to 4 foot storm surge is actually still dangerous here. I mean, 3 foot storm surge is enough to pick up a car. So if you have any toddlers or small kids, obviously try to get to the highest level, because that's obviously enough to go over their heads. But, definitely not deadly storm surge, or I wouldn't say life threatening. Just depends really. But yeah, that's what we have from Marco. So here's another look at the 5 o'clock advisories. As you see, a lot of western and central Cuba coast is under tropical storm warnings. Key West and a lot of the Keys have been now under tropical storm warnings, because we've actually already have 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts for those areas. That's how big that wind field is. And as you see, hurricane watch. As you see, Houston's outside of that cone. Actually, Houston's actually outside of those hurricane watches. I actually thought Houston was right here. I apologize, guys. I really apologize. I thought Houston was right there. Okay, well, yeah, Houston's definitely out of the cone, and they're under tropical storm watches. They are not under hurricane watches like I thought they were. I thought they were right on the edge. I thought they were right there. Anyways, so I do apologize for that, but hurricane watches stretch from all the way from the Houston Bay, all the way up into the south central coast. But they stretch pretty far inland. I mean, that's at least a good 3-hour drive from the coast from here to there. I mean, that is, or maybe 2 hours. I'm not an expert. I'm not sure how the traffic is. But either way, it's still pretty far inland there. So I would keep an eye on that. But yeah, let's check out now the storm surge for Laura if it happens at high tide. So high tide already causes threats for inland flooding. Obviously not as shabby, but for Laura, I mean, this is actually going to matter. These numbers will get a lot higher here. But this is if it occurs. A peak surge happens at high tide. For Laura, above ground level, Houston, the Houston Bay area near Galveston as well, 2 to 4 foot storm surge. So as far as the Houston Bay and Galveston area in Texas City, you guys are as far as there can see 2 to 4 foot storm surge. As we gradually move more into that southwestern and south central Louisiana coast, this is definitely from the far northern Texas coast to Morgan City, Louisiana. We can have 7 to 11 foot storm surge if it happens at high tide, which is easily life-threatening. Like, even if you go on a second level, there is big threats here in a lot of these areas right here on the coast near Cameron, Beaumont, Morgan City. I'm not familiar with the exact, I'm not super familiar, but I know that there is definitely not a lot of 2-floor houses here. I know there's a lot of trailers, a lot of 1-floor houses. That would easily top your house. And this is what they're showing for a Category 2 storm. If this is going to become a Category 3 or higher, this is bound to get higher. And 7 to 11 storm surge, no one is high enough, tall enough to not possibly drown from this, because obviously nobody's 11 foot tall or 10 foot tall or 8 foot tall, rarely even 7 foot tall. So definitely, if you're between this general area of Morgan City, I would consider evacuating in the next 24 hours, because then it's going to be too late, because there'll be a lot of traffic, a lot of that. I'm not saying it's too late because the storm will be there by then, because it won't. But I'm just saying because I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of traffic if you leave after 24 hours. But it's all up to you. From Morgan City to Grand Isle, all the way up here, we can see 4 to 6 foot storms, which is also life-threatening, because the average height is like 5 to 6 feet. 5 to 6 feet for I believe. I'm not exactly sure. So that's still very dangerous. And if there's a lot of current, if you get caught up in the current, that could very well be life threatening. So to either evacuate if you have 2 floors, it's up to you, because not only the storm surge, it's also the winds. You got to keep in mind if your house gets destroyed. Obviously, it depends, because Category 2, it could obviously do a lot of damage, especially if there's a 7 to 11 foot storm surge if this is at high tide. Gulfport, this general area, so a lot of the southeastern Louisiana coast could see 3 to 5 foot storm surge. So it could be life-threatening for a couple people. Still wouldn't recommend waiting the storm out, or I wouldn't recommend going outside here, and I wouldn't recommend staying on your lowest floor. And then in the New Orleans Bay area and Borge Lake, 2 to 4 foot storm surge. Look how widespread these threats are. Look how widespread these impacts are. You got to keep that in mind here. Just because you're not on the cone doesn't mean you're not at not a high risk. Tracks here. These are actually the latest tracks here following the National Hurricane Center update. As you see, gradually going to really be blowing up here. And you can actually tell it's going to really strengthen, because we all know the more strengthened, the more north it goes. And they see it looks like it really blows up right here. So, I mean, it could be a Category 1 right here, and then RI to a Category 3 before landfall. That's very well possible. I think this could be a Category 1 within 24 hours easily, because, I mean, if it's 60 miles an hour here, and it has this long the ocean, and it blew up from here to here, I think it could easily become a hurricane in the next 24 hours here. And that's very possible. Maybe 24 to 30 hours. As you see, this storm can make landfall in around 60-ish hours. So tick-tock, time is ticking here. You obviously need to get gas, preparation. I mean, you're not the only one ready for this storm. You're not the only one. I mean, there's thousands of people that are probably already getting stuff, and you don't want to run out. I mean, if you're gonna wait the storm out, you don't want to run out of batteries. You don't want to run out of shutters. You don't want to run out of wood. You don't want to go to stores all empty-handed, because if you can evacuate, let's say for reasons, then that is no good news, because you don't want to be waiting out with no preparations with a 1 to 2 floor house with a incoming up or so soon to be major hurricane possibly. I mean, that is not a good idea. But as you see, tracks have basically mainly all shifted to Louisiana now. So I don't see a landfall for Texas directly, but there could be a chance that it may make landfall close to the border here, possibly close to the Texas border, possibly close to the borderline state, but mainly going to make that official landfall near Lake Charles, Louisiana here. So if you're in Lake Charles, I see it's going to bring big impacts for big cities like Alexandria, Shreveport, Monroe. So if you're as far inland as there, I would keep on looking at videos of weather, including mine, the Weather Channel, whatever you want to look at. And when it comes to this 48-hour mark, that could be the close peak of the storm. Maybe right before a landfall is when it's going to be at its peak. So you got to decide whether you're going to leave in 48 hours as far inland as Shreveport, because that's where we'll be seeing how strong it will be. It could be a category 1 here, which it probably won't. It could be a category 2 here. It can even be a category 3 here. So if it's a category 3 for landfall, you can be seeing Cat 2 winds easily in far inland Louisiana. That's going to bring some big time flooding here. So even if you're far inland, I will still keep in mind the possibility here. All right, let's look at the model intensity guidance. As you see, we all saw what they looked like for the past coming days. Look how many models get this to a category 2 now, and we have 3 getting this to a category 3 and 2 getting this to a category 4. I mean, guys, this could be a major hurricane easily. I mean, it really can. and almost every global model and hurricane model shows it. So it's not just one or two models. Even intensity models are getting there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think 9 showed this becoming category 2, and I think only 5 or 6 showed that yesterday. So we have 3 more, and now we have 3 models showing a cat 3, and then 2 getting to a borderline category 4. This is some big threats. It really, really is some big threats. Tropical storm force wind probability, as you see. Cuba, as far as central Cuba, you guys are still not out of the picture for tropical storm winds. You guys could expect those tropical storm winds until the end of the night. And then you see already the Louisiana coast, already 2.5 days out, we're already seeing a 90 to 100% chance for tropical storm wind probabilities here for the coast of Louisiana. Houston, you guys are under a 30 to 40% chance. Look, as far as the western panhandle, 5 to 10% chance. But I think the best chance for these hurricane winds is going to be maintaining right here. Look at New Orleans. New Orleans under a 50 to 60% chance. Look at Monroe. I believe Monroe's under a 70 to 80% chance here. Or actually, no, Monroe's actually under a 50 to 60% chance. But you see, very far inland areas like Monroe, Shreveport, you guys are above a 50% chance for TS winds. And then obviously, we can't forget about Marco. Obviously, look at that wind field for Marco. It is about the size of Metro Atlanta. I mean, this is extremely small. As you see, expected to make landfall maybe as a tropical depression and then become post-tropical. I mean, this was a huge bust, really was. As you see, this is going to be a tropical depression possibly at 8 o'clock here. But now it's going to check out the global and hurricane models on lore, and then we'll wrap up the video. So here's a look at the GFS here. So as you see, GFS showing at 983 millibars in the next 12 hours. And you see GFS really getting to the point where it's 971, which is possibly category high-end category 2, low-end category 3 in the next 30 hours. 950 millibars in 48 hours. Like I said, the 48-hour mark, between 48 hours to like that 60 hours is where we can see that peak. 950 millibars, that is easily a category 4. Easily category 4. 949 millibars, and then makes landfall, then 953 millibar hurricane according to the GFS. And look at that, 972 as far as central Louisiana. Like I said, this could still pose big threats as far inland areas as central Louisiana. Let's go and check out another 10-meter wind, shall we? I mean, look how intimidating this looks. I mean, this is actually a massive storm, easily going to be a category 4. If you look at the GFS shows easily a category 4, and just impacting a lot. As you see, Houston, you guys aren't really seeing much at all. I mean, like I said, the tropical storm wind field will be pretty large, but look at that. I mean, it's so big of a storm, but yet, look, Houston's not even seeing impacts, really. I mean, not even close based on the GFS. But obviously, still keep this in mind. Let's check out now. Actually, I don't know why I just did that here. That was actually not super smart. I don't know why I moved that. Let's check out now other models here. Let's check out what the icon has to say here. So the icon shows that 1,001 right now. Okay, that's where it is right now, 1,001 millibars. And they show it kind of really blowing up. 42 hours, 984. 45, 981. 48, 965. They kind of show this possibly rapidly intensifying. 970 millibars at 51 millibars. 971 millibars at 51 hours. And let's go check that out. 970 millibars at 51 hours. And then making it up to 968 before making landfall. As you see, these all show very, very close to the Texas border. But really, where that low pressure touches soil, U.S. soil, it will technically be Louisiana. But I do see these models shifting more to the east. These models kind of shifting kind of near Lake Charles. I do expect that possibly by the 0Z. But look at that. The GFS and Icon are really starting to agree with this. Let's actually check out what the European has to say with this storm. Let's actually check out the vorticity here. See what they show with this storm. But look at what European has for us. A massive hurricane here heading for the Louisiana area. This is actually based on the European. It kind of looks like it's going to make a landfall in Lake Charles. That's kind of what the European is showing based on what I see. Let's go check out now the HWRF model. A very, very detailed hurricane model. These seem to be quite accurate with strength here, but I mean, look what they show. They show it at, as you see, in the next 3 hours, 997. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. And then they show in the next 48 hours, 946 millibars. That is a Category 4 to a weak Category 5 hurricane. Look at this. Not done. 930 millibar hurricane in 60 hours. This is the definition of rapidly intensifying. This is like a mega rapidly intensifying. That's like a 70 millibar drop within hundreds of miles. And then it gets to 934 while making landfall near Lake Charles. God, that's a Category 5 landfall. That's 934 millibars is easily a Category 5 hurricane. It's going to check out now 10-meter wind on this. Look at this. Look at here. This is basically, let's see, around 130 knots here. This is around 130 knots. So yeah, this is basically almost a Category 5. This is like a borderline Category 5, Category 4, but look at that. Sheesh. That's pretty impressive. To actually check out now what we have on the 850 HPA height here, 150 meters up in the atmosphere. Look at that. I mean, that's high in the atmosphere, so that can be big impacts here for a lot of Louisiana in the higher atmosphere. And look at that. We can be seeing up to like 80 knots there and higher in the atmosphere for Louisiana or for Arkansas. But look at that. That is pretty intimidating here for portions of Louisiana here. I mean, this could easily be what the HWRF and what GFS and ICON show a major hurricane. But look at that. That is 160 knots on the higher atmosphere. That's like 180 miles an hour. Well, that's kind of what Dorian was, but I think Dorian was a bit stronger. But look at that. So guys, I hope you guys did enjoy that YouTube video here on the tropics here. So if you're in like the Louisiana area, the Louisiana western, it's kind of western Louisiana, far eastern Texas, I would definitely keep lore in mind. I mean, this could easily become a major hurricane here. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and bye guys.